liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Political Discourse. Let's get right to it. A federal judge has just shot down Trump's immigration policy that concerns the deportation of immigrants or migrants from United States detention to third countries. So the Trump administration, what happened was that the Trump administration's immigration policy had called for illegals to be sent to third countries fairly quickly. These third countries are nations not where they come from. The idea was conceived to expand the authority of the removal of migrants expeditiously and the third country transit ban. The administration's policy aimed to reduce greatly the time migrants sat in U.S. detention facilities by bypassing the normally long immigration court hearings. Trump pushed to expand the utility of the expedited removal that allowed migrants or immigration officers to send non-U.S. citizens in a matter of days or hours from the border region area of the entire U.S. interior. The new policy also prevented migrants from claiming asylum at the southern U.S. border, where they come through another country or a third country without first seeking protection there in that third country. Trump's policy, it forced migrants back to transit countries like Mexico, Guatemala, or to their homelands. To help bring this into context, I have a clip. And this does regard or is concerning the federal judge's announcement that the Trump administration's immigration policy is unconstitutional. Before we get there, before we drop that, let you guys see what was said or what's being done about this whole issue about immigration. I would first like to ask you to like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to the Art of Political Discourse. Your viewership and participation with this channel enables us to continue to bring informative and educational content to the masses. So without further ado, let's get into this clip.
Trump administration can no longer deport immigrants to countries they are not from. That's the ruling, anyway, from a federal judge. That judge said the Department of Homeland Security's policy to deport immigrants to, quote, third countries is unlawful and could put people in danger.
The judge also ruled migrants have the right to a, quote, meaningful notice and a chance to object before being removed to a country other than their homeland.
That move, the Trump administration's immigration policy, that move in particular, where they're removing migrants without due process, is something that we, even though we're U.S. citizens, some of us, we should be very, very wary of. I think that's a slippery slope. If they're able to do it in that respect, then this administration will find loopholes or claim to have found loopholes that could also remove due process from just, everyday citizens, irregardless of what the matter is. This process, the elimination of due process is, and is what the federal judge claimed is unconstitutional. So we have to really start looking at what's going on in the Trump administration in terms of civil rights, constitutional rights, whether or not these individuals, these migrants are U.S. citizens. There's still a constitution that has to be adhered by. And this is something that the Trump administration, I think, in my opinion, is not concerned with. Let's get back to this clip.
Joining us again this morning to discuss this, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. All right, Khalif, let's start at the beginning, really, before we get into what third country, the level of risk that adds. Let's talk about due process when it comes to immigration cases.
That part, due process. And if they're willing to attempt to eliminate due process in this country, a country of laws, a constitution that calls for due process, if they're willing to do that to migrants and immigrants, illegal or not, then that is also a red flag, or should say to any of us, all of us, that they'll apply that or will attempt to apply that same lack of due process on regular everyday U.S. citizens.
What does the process portion require?
Notice, for sure. That's what the judge said, and I think the Constitution supports that. And notice, in an opportunity to be heard. We've been here before with this case, with this exact same judge. They appealed this all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration on the original two. They were emergency basis, but kicked it back to this lower court to have a full-fledged hearing. This judge is saying, listen, I still believe that the Constitution protects these individuals and that you can't remove them without notice and opportunity to be heard, and that you're attempting to work around and sidestep our Constitution with these vague assurances from third countries and giving folks that don't know the law an opportunity to not be heard. Specifically, he says the policies where migrants were only allowed to object if they affirmatively said they feared the third countries. And this is the key part. Officers were not required to ask. And so they're just saying, if we don't know, then I can send you there. If I don't know for sure that you have some, impending imminent death or threat in this other country, then I can send you there. And I don't have a duty to ask. The judge is saying, well, actually, you do.
All right. So the judge is suspending a decision for 15 days, right? So what happens in that period of time?
Appeal as fast as you can. The Trump administration will want to get this back in front of the Supreme Court. So they'll sidestep any appellate court and try to get it in front of them on an emergency basis. But even if the Supreme Court ultimately rules against this judge again, it still has to go in this court. He has to get a final ruling, some final determination. And so that's what's problematic. That's why he's giving them this 15 days to go ahead and do your appeal. But his argument is based on a number of things that are crystal clear. First of all, lack of due process. You need to make sure that it purports what Congress has put in place for the due process rules. Second, on the mystery of assurances. Nobody really knows anything. This is from the judge's opinion about these purported assurances. Who do they come from? What do they cover? Why has the government deemed them credible? How can anyone even know for certain that they exist? And he cited an individual, a Guatemalan man that had protections from being sent back to Guatemala, was sent to Mexico. The very same time, taken from Mexico and sent to Guatemala, the place that the government had already said he cannot go. So what happened to him when he got to Guatemala? He was sexually assaulted. Those are the types of things that the government, this judge is saying, has attempted to try to lie about. He said misled the court, violated court orders, and removed deporting protections for migrants that were supposed to have them. So he's saying you're violating these folks' constitutional rights, the protections of due process that are supposed to be there for everyone. And I think this is probably, for me, the biggest nail in the coffin. The judge says, on the constitutional principles, there are laws in our country, and it's with profound gratitude for the unbelievable luck of being born in the United States of America that this court affirms that no person, and he pauses, in this country, no person in this country, not a U.S. citizen, but the fact that you're in this country may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. He said, I don't care if you're an American citizen. Your feet are in this country. You are guaranteed, because of our Constitution, the rights to at least have due process. And that's the part he's saying the United States government right now is not doing.
And not just, Khalid, the due process is what is the main focus here, but this third country thing. If the third country was not even a part of this conversation, if they were just being deported back to their original country, would there be as much of a problem? Or is it because they're being sent to countries that have nothing to do with where they're from?
Two parts. I think that brings the argument a little bit more convoluted. It's like, why are you sending them to these countries like Costa Rica, Panama, Rwanda, that the American government has made these agreements with? But I think we'd still be here if you attempted to send them to their home country. Why? Because they have fled that home country, come here seeking some.
Yeah, that's something. The United States, the Trump administration is actually sending these individuals who are from South America, some of the Caribbean islands, Africa, wherever, Asia, to countries who have nothing to do with the immigration policy in the United States. They're sending people to Rwanda in Africa. Go figure. That's like, wow, now you didn't drop me off in a location I know absolutely nothing about. I probably knew more about what was going on in America than I would know about what's going on in Africa. Now I'm in a location, I am just lost. I'm confused. Not only that, but I'm probably stuck there. Now I'm subjected to those laws or whatever that culture is in terms of immigrants. Now you from the frying pan into the fire. That's how I perceive that.
Some type of protection, some asylum from persecution. So if you sent them back there, it would be violation of federal law, and law would be probably a bigger concern than this. Sending them to a third country sidestep would have for sending, people that were seeking asylum back to where they were being persecuted.
What if you don't seek asylum? What if there's a person who hasn't done that? Does that apply to them as well?
I think for this category of cases, most of the people that we're talking about are individuals that are coming here and they are asking to be protected because they fear death, because either themselves or their family would die if they go back to their home country.
And in most cases, that might be so, but also in some cases, it's the fact that they want a better life for themselves. And I would imagine that some of them come up with the story that they're seeking asylum because of their lives or their family lives are in danger, or because the government is out to get them. But more than anything, I think it's just a matter of, hey, come to the United States. You can make a better life for yourself. That's what a lot of us understand. Most immigrants' reasons for coming to the United States is. So again, it's a slippery slope. If the Trump administration is willing to bypass the Constitution, to forego due process to individuals who they say, and a lot of us may agree with they're not being U.S. citizens, it's still a slippery slope. It's I think a move that the Trump administration or others, could be the next administration after, would use this on American citizens, violate the due process of American citizens. Again, it's a slippery slope. So, whatever comes of this, it may or may not turn out good for the migrants, the immigrants. But one thing is for sure, we'll have a better understanding of how the Constitution works, especially if the Supreme Court weighs in on this again. There'll be a greater understanding. And from that point, that will be, prescribed law. This is how you would have to go about doing these sort of things when it comes to migrants. That being said, I'm going to go on and in this. But again, I kind of understand, the plight of migrants. Some leave their country to come here for a better life. That's understood, but to come here and be detained, then deported or transported to another country, not of your own or the country you come from, is, I think, just wow, this added burden and stress on people. Just thinking about the stress they have initially trying to get in the country and staying, hoping not to be deported. That's stress enough. But then to be deported to a third country, that's got to be a lot of stress, man. So in a way, you gotta kind of feel for these people. That being said, this is the Art of Political Discourse. Again, please like, share, comment, follow, and subscribe to this channel. Your viewership and participation is greatly appreciated, will be greatly appreciated, and we to you informative and educational content. Take care of you.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.